Momentum Control is the new fast-paced game mode from Bungie that ramps the lethality of your guns up to 11, takes away your radar, and exposes your blueberry's collective inability to capture a zone to maximum effect.
The enemy has closed the gap!
Supers and abilities do not recharge unless you get kills, making everything laser focused on the act of killing. The result is, in my opinion, an interesting and fresh approach to the Crucible that truly makes the precision the name of the game and puts your game awareness to the limit, whilst clearly echoing the SWAT game mode from the Halo series in the process. But you didn't come here for my opinion. You came here to get good at momentum control, and we're gonna do just that. Hi, my name is Ascendant Nomad, and I am your Crucible Doctor. Momentum Control is about hitting headshots with high-impact weapons. That's it. Every gun is viable and every gun is lethal, but nothing will beat a one-hit kill, hit-scan weapon, and someone with mildly accurate aim. That's why we're going to get straight into it and say that tip number 1 is to use a high-impact scout rifle. Literally nothing else comes close. They do 202 critical damage, resulting in a one-hit kill. They're useful at every range except shotgun range, but realistically the amount of encounters you're going to face at close range is slim to none. That said, pairing a high-impact scout with a 900 SMG or, surprisingly, a trace rifle can be devastatingly effective. You could also use an adaptive or aggressive frame sniper rifle for easy body shots, but you'll have less ammo to play with and scout rifles are used in the same ranges. Normally the whole point of using a sniper is to play for the headshot kill, but when kinetic options do the same thing with the same results and aren't hindered by the ammo economy, it doesn't make as much sense to use them. Tip number 2 would be to take a second and assess the situation around you before going in blindly. In Momentum Control, it's over in the snap of a finger, and you can easily spend more time in a game spawning in and catching up to action than actually killing. Don't let that happen. Before you get involved, take a moment to gauge your context clues. Where do you hear shots going off? Where are your teammates dying? What zones are being capped? Can you hear anyone sliding, jumping, or using any class abilities? Positioning is the name of the game with Momentum Control, and it all starts by taking a second to give yourself a mental map of the battle ahead. As you get more involved, this mental map will change as players change positions, die, make plays for power, and zones. It's easier to keep track of these changes if you have a base to start off. Otherwise, it may all seem like it's random and chaotic, which it is, but this at least helps you deal with it a little bit better. Don't take too long to assess though, because within 2 to 3 seconds this information will become outdated, and you'll be making decisions based on the thought process that 1 uses old information and 2 doesn't apply to the situation anymore. The good news is you can steal away seconds at different points of the game frequently. Running in from spawn, reloading behind cover, and capturing an uncontested zone are all good examples of moments for downtime and reassessment. If you're having trouble with this or getting it wrong, keep trying. Predicting what's going to happen next is a skill that's built up by trial and error over hundreds of games of practice, and is a fundamental part of developing your game sense. In the meantime, just try and learn where people like to be for certain maps and make a plan to either avoid them or tackle them head on with different approaches. Tip number 3 is about bringing the fight to the opponents by looking for different or unconventional angles into familiar lanes. Since you've got a scout and you're playing for the one-shot kill, you don't need to do anything super fancy. Simply adjusting where you position yourself in order to look down a lane to something that isn't super typical can be useful for 2 reasons. Number 1, the position itself is atypical, giving you a competitive edge over the opponent who will default into looking for the more traditional spots first. And 2, it opens your mind to more free-form attack angles and gets you to start thinking about how fine your own margins of attack can be. The finer they are, the more angles you'll be able to find and use to your advantage. If you get used to thinking about a lane as not a tunnel, but a fiber optic cable, then the world really is your oyster. Of course, depending on your loadout, you may not be able to incorporate verticality or speed as well, but you don't need to push the envelope too much, just enough to keep things fresh and exciting. Tip number 4, don't stand out in the open. I shouldn't have to say it, but for some reason a lot of you like standing still with scouts and stand out in the open, so yeah, don't do it. Tip number 5, move. This is probably the most important point as it helps tie the previous points together. When you move, you gain more information about what's going on at all times, which helps you continually reassess as we talked about in point number 2. It also ties into point number 3, where setting about finding different angles of attack can help you be more unpredictable. In a similar vein, moving around the map makes you less likely to be hit from the same people in the same way and makes you harder for the opposition to take note of you, which can be an unsettling thing when they try and factor you into their own reading of the game. And of course, if you're moving from point A to point B frequently, you're less likely to be caught standing still like an absolute muppet, as we talked about in point number 4. Moving more is a good general rule for Crucible improvement, but I'd also like to make the point about your engagement windows. Typically, your engagement window can range from less than a second to 3 seconds, as people will do their best to kill and not be killed at the same time. In momentum control, that window is always never longer than a second, thanks to the threat of one-hit kill weapons and the general time to kill. You should be engaging and disengaging quickly, which means you should be looking to get out of firefights as soon as you miss that headshot. If you stay to take the next shot, you are effectively gambling with your life. And that's fine, that's a choice you're going to have to make, but with the engagement window so small, the payoff isn't really worth it. Let's say you've secured a kill, a contentious kill, in a tricky area. You're probably going to get shot and finished off by your opponent's teammates soon after. So weigh your pros and cons before you gamble with your life. Personally, I'll always disengage. I'd rather stay in an advanced position and re-engage when comfortable rather than waste my time dying, then running back and attempting to quickly reassess the state of the game, the maps and my teammates, etc, etc, etc. One more bonus tip for you. Tip number 6. Capture the damn zones. This is momentum control. And they take no time at all to capture now, by the way. When you're 2 zones down, that score differential racks up really quick. Stop the team's rot and capture those zones. You can do it solo with no threat to yourself. Promise. It's so easy. Just do it, please. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll have a video up later this week about my personal thoughts on momentum control for those interested in hearing me spew my opinions. If you liked this video, you know what to do. I'm Ascendant Nomad, and I'm your Crucible Doctor. See you in the next one. Cheers.
This battle is yours. Take it, 3 opponents down.